Can you please give a warm welcome to Adrian Martin?
I'm doing without a mic. Okay, guys, thank you so much for coming along today. I can't believe it, like the crowd of you that are here. It's mad. I suppose I wanted to talk to you a little bit. So you've got a copy of my book. You've probably been flicking through it a little bit. I want to talk about that in a little bit. But firstly, I just wanted to talk about, I suppose, my story and my background, because this is one thing I get asked about all the time. I get told like very regularly I look about like 16. Right? I get told that like nearly every day of my life. I'm 25, believe it or not. And I suppose my thing, and with the Leaving Cert results that came out yesterday, we'll go into that in a little bit, but about 8 years ago I completed my Leaving Cert. But before that, my interest was always like in food and in cooking and kind of in all that kind of stuff. Looking back to when I was 14, I worked in this little super value, which I'm from Cavan, okay? So I'm from it's called a little village called Bomboy in Cavan. Beside the biggest town is called Ballyconnell. And it's a great little village like where I live in. But my thing was I always had this interest in food. So my first job was cleaning toilets, washing cars, and sweeping floors in the super value. So that was my first ever job ever. I'm always a big believer in that, like, the wheel that squeaks the most gets the oil, okay? So, like, believe it or not, I'm the squeaker, okay? And, like, I literally believe that if I can't get something, I will try my best to get there. So, when I was working in Super Value, I was at the manager every single day. So, this is, like, my little part-time job, 14-year-old, in on a Saturday, Sunday. I was like, I want to get in on a delicatessen. I want to do a little bit of cooking. And, the manager was always like, no, you'll only go in there and make a mess. So I got fed up asking, because I asked every single day, and I walked out. Let's be honest, I walked out of the job, and walked down to a restaurant down beside me. It was about half an hour. Well, I didn't walk, actually, my dad dropped me down. It's a bit far, it's about half an hour away from me into Black Lion. And the chef that ran that restaurant there was Nevin Maguire. So I walked up to the door to Nevin, 14-year-old, I was like, knocked on the door, it's like, Nevin, how are you? Give us a job, will you? Like this. And Nevin was like, you're a bit young, a bit inexperienced. He's like, I have a mad interest in food, please, can I train to be a chef? I'm really interested in it. I've always watched it on TV. My obsession actually on TV was with Richard Corrigan, another chef who's opened a place there in Virginia more recently, who's obviously like fed the Queen, and he's cooked for so many amazing people throughout the years. So I was fascinated by him. The reason my fascination was with him is because he was able to like get a load of random ingredients and make incredible dishes out of random ingredients. That was my obsession. Also, he could chop like a ninja. Like, he'd chop and he'd look away and he wouldn't cut his hand off, right? So I landed up to Nevin's restaurant. He gave me the opportunity to work there. So I was in secondary school, and the restaurant was open Wednesday to Sunday. So after school, on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I was straight up to the restaurant there. My first job was to peel potatoes. So 50 kg bags of potatoes, you're given 50 bags of 50 kg bags of potatoes and told, okay, for the rest of the day, you're going to peel all those, like in the army, basically. That was my first job. Did you ever see spinach leaf? You know the little stem on a spinach leaf? Pick the little stem off. That's a job, okay? And place it into like a container. So those little jobs were the first things that I did. But I had this army of chefs around me that were doing different things. You had one chef in there that was cooking steaks and venison and like the most incredible racks of lamb and stuff. You had someone else who was plating up desserts and doing all these incredible designs. You had someone else who was at the pass calling orders and sending plates away. And there was so much action going on around me. And I was soaking everything up. I found myself to be seriously comfortable in that environment. I just soaked it up and I loved it to bits. We'll go back to school. When I was in school, the whole way through school, let's be very honest with you, I was probably the biggest messer you'd ever meet in your life. You would not have wanted me to be in your class, let's be very honest, alright? If you were in a class with me, a lot of people that were in school with me would be like, God help you if you're in class with that fella. Alright, that's the truth. I had a serious problem with, I've always said this, a serious problem with reading. I've always had help with reading the whole way throughout school. And spelling. Massive problem with spelling as well. And I'll get into that. So in my Leaving Cert, and the results were out yesterday, this was the biggest love for me. So throughout 14 to about 17, I did my Leaving Cert at 17. 14 to 17, I worked continuously in Nevin's restaurant. I worked my way up, so I got onto like a section of my own where I was able to serve out food myself. So I was able to basically to hold a full-time job while I was at school at the same time. I was able to work in school, well, not really work in school, but sit in school and go to work. When the Leaving Cert results came out, so for my Leaving Cert, I didn't study at all. I had no interest in it. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I just felt like I was put through kind of system. So it's kind of like, and for me, I'm not an academic person at all. I find it very, very hard to sit down in front of a laptop and actually type something or write something at all. It's just, I'm a completely different type of people. And that's what I think that the system didn't suit me at all. So for my Leaving Cert, I didn't study. My first exam was English. It was very sunny, as you know, it always is on the Leaving Cert. And once I did my first exam, I sat out sunbathing after it instead of studying for the rest of them. So that was kind of my thing. When I got my results, which was yesterday, 8 years ago, I got 180 points. Okay, so 180 points in your Leaving Cert is like some of the exams I walked in. I just wrote the exam number on, wrote out a few little lines, and walked out. That was kind of it. 180 points. Looking at all my friends, so this is kind of like a really big kind of low for me in my life. Like it kind of hits you. And all your friends are out there celebrating. They're all going to Trinity, they're all going to UCD, DCU, going to Limerick, Galway, incredible universities, all out celebrating, drinking, and you know, they've done a great exam. But for me, at that stage in my life, I was kind of like, what am I going to do? You know, all my mates and everything are kind of like out celebrating that they've got this incredible opportunity to go to do exactly what they want. They could go become teachers, they could work in incredible places like Google, you know, they could do all these kind of things. For me, it was kind of, I've got one opportunity, and that's cooking. So I applied to college. For someone that has 180 points in your Leaving Cert, to apply to college, you have to pay your whole way through it. So I got into like a PLC, which is literally, you literally do 2 days a week, and you work there 2 days a week on your days off at work, but you also go to work and you work your full-time job as well. So you fund your whole way through your college. So I did 2 years in Enniskillen, in a small little tiny college. I got my papers to become a professional chef. So really it's a hands-on course. Everything is literally, you start with your different types of cuisines. You learn how to, like, I suppose, butcher up a chicken. That's like a module, and you're examined on that. I know it's really weird, but like those are kind of things. Fillet of fish, that was also an exam. You know, that's kind of the exams that we did in college, and that was really hands-on things. After that, then I took a big leap. I applied to a college in Killybegs, and I wanted to get myself a degree in culinary arts. So I thought this was like a really big step for me. It was going to be 3 days a week, so I'd miss out on my Wednesday and work in Nevins, and I wanted to get myself a degree because the papers were great and I'd be able to teach actually cooking. So took the leap at it and did my exams. Obviously, when you're in a small little college like that, your lecturers really pay great attention to you. So each module that I did, for instance, we did French. But it wasn't just French to learn the language, it was French that we learned the language of food. So we learned all about food, but in French. And our exam was we had to present a region, all about the food of a particular region in France. So I picked Normandy, because I love it, because of all the different types of cheeses and the Calvados, the apple brandy, you know, all the different types of cuisines that are in France. That was an exam for my college in Killybegs. So when I did that, I passed all my exams, believe it or not. Very, very lucky to do it. Got myself my degree, and I came to a crossroads. So you're working in a kitchen. The hours are like 70 hours a week, maybe 80 some weeks. You're in at 9 o'clock in the morning. You're finished at 1 in the morning. Okay. You eat your dinner while you're standing up, but also you're keeping an eye on your section and you're making sure that everything's okay and you're ready for that service that night. Because believe it or not, in Nevin's restaurant at the time, coming to the time that I was doing my degree, we were voted 15th best restaurant in Europe. Okay, so that's where the standards were so high. We were serving food to such a high standard that you had to be so well prepared in advance. So the hours are really tough. You're sleeping there. So you've got a room in the restaurant. The back of the restaurant, they're not the greatest rooms ever, let's be honest. They weren't very nice to live in, but that's where we stayed. So you lived this life of working in this restaurant. And when I finished my degree, the crossroads was either all my friends were chefs, because that's who I socialised with. It came to a crossroads where either I go to Australia. Melbourne had an amazing food scene at the time. There was Michelin star restaurants and stuff that all my friends were going out there to work in. I had applied for a visa, but I let them all go. I stayed in Ireland and I took a chance. And it's probably a chance that and that like crossroads where I came to, when I made that decision, it's one that I'm really, really thankful that I stayed here for. I decided that because I had a degree in culinary arts, I learned so much about product development. I learned so much about, I suppose, just food in general and the different types of jobs that are in food. So I was always taught that the only job that I could do was be a chef in a restaurant. That was kind of it. But outside of that, believe it or not, there's product development, there's teaching and cookery schools, there's endless jobs in food. So I decided that I would offer my services to businesses all across Ireland. So I just took a chance, started sending emails, started picking up the phone and ringing people and saying, I worked in this restaurant with Nevin Maguire, he's Ireland's most well-known chef. I can come in and maybe do product development with your business, maybe help you guys out in some way, developing new menus, working with you and all that kind of stuff. And I basically offered it for nothing. So I was like, I'll do it for like €100 a week, and I'll give you all my recipes and I'll give you all my ideas. And that's kind of, as long as you let me stay with you, that's kind of the way I put it with them. And I started in Bandon in Cork. So that was my first business. It was actually butcher shops, it was cafes, it was artisan food stores and other restaurants that I worked with. Businesses altogether that I travelled around Ireland to. I worked in every single county, if you're not. 128 businesses altogether I worked with. So a week, maybe 3 days here, 3 days there, travelled, completely broke, had no money, but it was a chance that I wanted to take to get my name out there. The beauty about it was that I got the interaction with their customers. I got to meet so many different types of people, which brought me out as a person. So when you leave a kitchen, you look like, I suppose, there's white walls everywhere, there's no windows, you're very pale in the face, your eyes are, I don't know, you look wrecked basically, you look shattered coming out of there. So when I came out of the kitchen, my communication skills, literally, I didn't have any, they were non-existent. You're so focused on your job that I needed to improve on my communication skills. So that was one thing that I found traveling all across Ireland really brought me out as a person. Really brought me out to be able to get out there and speak to people. Because at the end of the day, I was kind of put in a box and felt like I was very uncomfortable in speaking with people. So once I traveled the country, I got very lucky. I got asked to go in and meet students. I got asked to go in and do demonstrations in schools. I got asked to do demos at like food festivals, at agricultural shows, and all that kind of stuff. And I felt myself to be very comfortable doing this. I enjoy getting up in front of a crowd. I can get up in front of a crowd like you guys here today and talk, but when I have food, it's kind of like I'm taking people on a journey. So it's kind of like I've got food here, but you're also with me, and you're like in on the experience, but only you in the room can kind of feel that experience. And that's kind of the thing that I feel when I do a cooking demo. So I found myself to be very, very comfortable. I got very used to going around to schools. I travelled around to secondary schools. I actually got picked up by so many different secondary schools all across Ireland, doing talks on healthy eating, doing talks on, I suppose, how to cook from scratch. My age group, believe it or not, lost out in cooking. 25 to 35 year olds. 9 out of 10 of us actually can't cook at all. It's actually proven in Ireland. The reason for that was the Celtic Tiger, the boom. Our parents were literally spending money on literally just, I suppose, ready meals. I was eating out a lot more, and weren't interested in cooking. Cooking is a thing that's passed down by your parents. It wasn't passed down to my generation. I'm just lucky that I trained in it, so I know how to cook. But my mum wouldn't have passed it down to my brothers or sisters who were in around the same age as me. So 9 out of 10 of us can't cook at all. So I thought, schools, this is a great opportunity to get in here, make sure that doesn't happen to the next generation coming through. So travelled so much around schools. Got picked up one day by TV3. It was like a show called The Late Lunch Live at times. Now called, well, it was the 7 o'clock show, now it's the 6 o'clock show. They can't make up their mind what it's really called. It was giving me an opportunity really to get on television and actually cook on television. And it was on my 23rd birthday, so it's 2 years ago, the 9th of October, and I cooked with Sharon Core and Lucy Kennedy. So, shaking like mad and getting up there and doing it. But I've been a regular on the show there ever since for 2 years now, and it's just been like incredible experience for me in there, and it was a great platform for me to really improve on what I did. Believe it or not, so you see the way I call myself Chef Adrian. The name came from about when I came to the crossroads. I said I'd set myself up a little Facebook page and document all my travels, and when I didn't know what to call it, and I documented like all my travels through like it, and I through like I suppose YouTube and through Twitter and through loads of different places, and the reason for it was, you ever see like Gordon Ramsay's called Chef Ramsay in America, and I was like, that sounds kick-ass, you know? So I was like, I'm gonna call myself Chef Adrian, and it stuck, and believe it or not, I actually hate it now, but I'm not allowed to remove it, so I'm not. They won't allow me to remove it anymore, but that's kind of stuck, and that's been it. And yeah, it's kind of been like a journey that I took through social media, gathered together followers on social media, got picked up by TV. Believe it or not, my biggest break was about 2 years ago. So that was the start of it. About 2 years ago, I made a recipe. So I was in a school, and the kids were all like, Adrian, why don't you do recipes for like doner kebabs? Why don't you do recipes for like spice bags? Because this is all that we're eating. I was like, okay. So I made a little video with my own camera at home. It was literally the cheapest little Canon camera you could ever buy, believe it or not. And edited it myself on my own thing, uploaded it onto YouTube, and I got such a massive response to this video. So all of a sudden RTE came to me, they were like, Adrian, we love your video, come in here and make a show with us. Love in Dublin were like, Adrian, come in here and do some work with us, and everything, absolutely everything exploded from this one video. It was a spice bag I made, believe it or not. So it was literally like a 30-second video that literally opened a whole world that I never thought I would have seen ever. So I started making videos for Love in Dublin. So all the little, small, little, tiny, little tasty videos, those are my hands. So all those kind of, and I didn't believe that was actually a business in food itself. So the idea that the book, so I released a show. I always had this, I just took the idea from the students themselves. They were like to me, as you can see, why don't you do recipes for spice bags? Why don't you do recipes for stuff that we're actually eating? In Ireland at the moment, we're spending 9 million a week on takeaways. Yeah. Which is a lot. Yeah, so it is a lot, isn't it? And, yes. 9 million a week on takeaways. It's a lot, isn't it? It is a lot. So the majority of that would be pizza, actually, believe it or not. Yeah, pizza is the majority of that. And what the idea was, the idea of the book was literally that we get students. So this is what they're eating: chicken fillet rolls, doner kebabs, spice bags, all that kind of stuff. Show them how to make it themselves. Get them a little bit interested in food. But believe it or not, it wasn't just students that were eating this food. It was everyone. Absolutely everybody in the country is eating this kind of food. My age group's eating this type of food. My parents and their age group are all eating that type of food as well. So it really fitted in so nicely for me. The idea of the book came to me just about last year. So all the little videos were doing great. We created a little series on RT Player, which was just an online series, which was just Fakeaway recipes. So we had 10 different style recipes. They went down a treat. We also then created a show called, so we wanted to feed Ireland's obsession with food. So you know the way there's restaurants popping up everywhere that's like, this is the best burger you can possibly get in Ireland. These are the best wings, you know? This was kind of Ireland's obsession with food was like this. So we created a show for that. We just followed along with what people wanted. So we created a show called Chef Adrian Eats Ireland. And I went out there to find the best wings, the best burger, the best ice cream, you know, whatever it is. And we created this little online series with a TV budget just for RTE Player. And we had like 6 different episodes. Obviously, everything was in there sponsored and everything by Cars Crackers. Mad, you know, Cars Crackers. But like, it was an opportunity I was given by them to create my own little show. So the book followed that. Perfectly. So it was kind of like in sync. The recipes that we were cooking on the show were actually recipes that are in the book. Before I explain a little bit about the book, I wanted to talk to you. So before I brought out the book, I had to do a little bit of research. Ireland is obsessed with dieting these days. You've got either the one side of the spectrum is everyone wants to look like bodybuilders. They exercise every single day. They're really strict on their diet, and you know, they're out there going to the gym so often. But every single post you run through on Facebook is somebody's weightlifting or squatting or I don't know what it is. There's that obsession there. But there's the opposite side of the spectrum is where the people have absolute, and this is where the 9 million spent on takeaway comes in, where people have absolutely no interest in that at all and avoid it wherever costs. So I don't know where some people are in the middle, some people are fine, but like there's 2 sides of the spectrum that are extreme. So there's that side and then there's this side. So what I was trying to do was the book doesn't feed into, because there's so many healthy books out there at the moment, there's so many fitness books that feed a diet, a particular type of diet. I had no interest in that at all. I'm an ordinary average person. Okay, I'm in the middle here. I cook for myself. I believe that I use the best quality ingredients you can possibly buy. I read a book. I listened to a book. Sorry, I didn't read a book. And it was called The Diet Myth. Okay, probably the best book I've ever listened to or read. Okay, and it explained diets inside out. I met with the guy that wrote the book, and he invited me down to Cork to meet with a lecturer down there who travels the world lecturing on this kind of thing. Diets, the problem is with it, it's so hard to maintain it. It's so hard to keep it up. It's so hard to continuously be so strict on a diet. Like any diet at all, may it be, say, you're eating lentils for breakfast, lunch and dinner. At the end of the day, lentils are going to be the most horrible thing to eat, breakfast, lunch and dinner. And that's an extreme one, but like say if you went on any type of diet at all, what happens normally? You last about maximum, some people last longer than others. Some people may only last like 2 months. They lose a load of weight in a short space of time. They kind of shock their system, and they end up putting on what they lost because they've lost their momentum and they've lost the interest in the diet because it's so hard to maintain. Basically sums up every single diet out there. I had no interest in telling you to go out there and diet and go out there and do that kind of thing. So I kind of explain in the book a little bit about that. That all we need to do is look at the way our grandparents back in the 80s, early 90s used to cook. They used to use the best of quality ingredients you could possibly buy. They cooked with cream. They cooked with butter. They cooked with oils. They cooked with the best Irish ingredients you can buy, which is on our doorsteps. So you can walk into a butcher shop. When they bought their meat, they didn't ask for the fat to be cut off. They cooked with it on, okay? Because that's a natural fat. Fat at the end of the day is like an aid in digestion. Okay, it's the one thing we do really need to look at is the processed foods that we're eating. So the processed sugars, the processed fats as well. They're kind of destroying our bodies. So they are. I know this is getting a little bit deep about it, but that's kind of the ins and outs of it. If you look at the way your grandparents used to cook, and you feed that into your own cooking. So if you're cooking a meal during the day, what way would your grandparents cook it? They would literally do it the most basic methods of cooking, but it was the most healthy for us. A broad range then was used throughout the week. You need a broad range of different types of food to sustain a healthy lifestyle. Obviously, we also need a little bit of exercise as well. So if you're not into running, if you're not into going to the gym or anything like that, go out and just walk. It's very simple. Just go out and walk once or twice a week. It is what helps you. I want to feed the obsession here. This is the obsession here that 9 million is spent on takeaways a week. I have absolutely no interest in cooking. I have no interest in exercising at all. So let's create a book for these guys here. Let's bring them into the middle and make them a little bit healthy and shake them up a little bit. That's really what the idea of the book was. There you have it in front of you there. You'll notice that some of the recipes use full fat cream. You notice that some of the recipes use rapeseed oil. You notice that some of the recipes use spice combinations and stuff. Everything is home cooked. That's the idea of it. It's not processed. You're buying the best quality ingredients you can afford. You're cooking a meal that is really good for you, but also it's stopping you from buying 9 million worth of takeaway a week, every week. I hope you enjoy it. It was like, to be honest with you, it's kind of like a dream of mine to ever do this. Me watching Nevin for years. When I was peeling my potatoes, Nevin he's on his 16th book now. He's done so many different TV shows for RTE, and it's kind of like a dream of mine to do something like this. Get up and talk to people like you, and do little bits of things on TV and stuff like that. It's always been a dream of mine from a 14-year-old, watching Richard Corrigan on there and stuff. 1 in a million chance, can someone like me get the opportunity to do that? I'm so thankful that I can do it, and it's actually unbelievable that I am doing it as well. I hope you really, really enjoy it. I put my heart and soul into the book. I've done so much research and so much, I suppose, trial and error of eating these different types of dishes and trying to get the exact replicas in there as well. Give them a little try. Let me know how you get on. You can send me, I don't know, a little picture of how you get on if you want online. I've had so many great responses to it. Believe it or not, the book is out now 7 weeks, and it's been best-selling cookbook in Ireland the last 7 weeks. There you go. Which is mad. It's really crazy. Well, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Hey, thank you. Well done. Thank you very much. Hey, thanks, Adrian. That was great. Thank you very much. So I think our audience will probably agree with me. You come across as a very determined person and very innovative as well. Wouldn't you think so? And the different challenges that he faced, especially after his training. So I'm very surprised the cooking doesn't come from the family. But where does that personality trait come from? Does that come from someone in your family, that entrepreneurship, that
like my dad is my dad's heavily involved in business. So my dad runs an event management company that sets up food festivals and stuff. So he's kind of involved in food himself.
What are they called?
It's Martin Event Management. So he sets up cooking demo stations and kitchens and does all that kind of stuff. So it kind of fed in nicely that the two of us got to get to work together in what we do, which is a bit mad, yeah. And
was he doing that when you were young, when you were a child, or is that something that came later on?
It actually only came literally when I started up as well. He set it up at the same time as me, and the two of us kind of coincided and worked together in that. So it was really cool. Okay. Yeah.
Great, very good. So I'll ask, as usual, one or two more questions, then I'll hand the microphone out to you guys. So this happens to me about 2 or 3 times a week, and it's not because I'm a millennial. I'm not really a millennial. Tell us about a time you had absolute disaster of a cooking experience.
Oh, right. I've had loads. Oh my god, 6 years in that kitchen, I've had so many. My worst one, I think, I always look back on it. So we used to make these sauces called veloutés. So on a Wednesday is your main prep day, and your veloutés take in the space of 5 hours to make. Each velouté is finished off with a liaison, which is literally egg yolk and cream mixed together, and it gives the velouté a shine and thickens it naturally. But what happened to me was I made all the veloutés. They were always put in these little buckets. They were labelled. They were placed into this chiller first that blast chilled them, and then they were placed into the cold room. But while I was pulling them all out of the blast chiller, every single one of them landed on the ground. So I was standing there and I was like, oh no, there's 4 hours of work gone. So you can imagine, and then service is coming and you have to try and make these different types that we put on: velouté, Thai broth, mushroom velouté with grated truffle in there that's worth thousands of euros and stuff. So you can imagine what it's, it was a mare.
Okay. I imagine you got in a bit of trouble about of that happening. Do we have any audience questions just yet? I've got one here.
Cool.
You say we should cook like our grandparents, but so how do you feel about the more modernist techniques that are out there these days?
So I love the modern techniques. Obviously, we cook like our grandparents. We look at our ingredients the kind of same way that they looked at it. But obviously, the modern techniques that come in fit in so nicely with it as well. I believe that if you look back, it's just really looking back to basics, the way they used to shop rather than cook. But the modern techniques of cooking using different types of spices and seasonings and stuff are absolutely brilliant. Yeah, great.
Back over here.
Cool.
Thank you.
I love all these questions. Sorry.
Hi. My question is, what, from a personal point of view, what kind of advice you would give someone who's doing the same thing you're doing, kind of becoming a chef, but hasn't found the motivation yet to be that determined about, I'm setting up my career here. So is there anything, maybe you had a moment yourself where you were like, oh no?
Yeah, honestly, 6 years in Nevin's kitchen, when you're coming to the end of it, I was literally just exhausted and tired and needed something new. So 6 years is a long time to stay in any restaurant. Normally chefs only stay for about half a year to a year. What I recommend doing really is traveling around as much as you can and picking up as much as you can from different restaurants. I actually worked in here for about a 6-month stint in Bon Appetit. It was actually when I worked in Nevin's, we were sent off to a Michelin star restaurant to actually learn about Michelin star food. So I headed up pastry there for about 6 months, which was kind of as I always say, change is as good as a rest. And really helped me. I also went over then to work in Ramsey's place. Best meal I've ever had. But I was there for 3 weeks. So you can do stages in there. It's in Royal Hospital Road. These 3 Michelin stars. And I was saying, I'm a believer that the wheel that squeezes the most gets the oil. I was literally the most annoying person ever for those 3 weeks in that kitchen. I'd say there was a light to see the end of me. But traveling around as much as you can. Get your degree, but there's loads of opportunities out there in cooking itself, not just being a chef in a kitchen or running a kitchen. I'm 25, everyone keeps asking me, why don't you have your own restaurant yet? Why don't you have your own restaurant? There's no point in me having a restaurant when I'm 25. I'd be better off having a restaurant when I'm 35. So then I have a lot more experience behind me. I know exactly what I want to do at that stage, because I'm only figuring out what I want to do as I go along now. Yeah.
My question was, do you have a restaurant?
No, I don't, no.
And the second question is, so as you don't have a restaurant, 2 or 3 names that you suggest to eat in Dublin that you say, wow.
Oh, okay. Obviously, the greenhouse is absolutely amazing. Have any of you ever been to the greenhouse? Yeah. You have? What do you think?
Best restaurant in town.
Yeah, it's insanely good. Did you have the little beetroot meringues with the pistachio? I robbed that recipe. So it's a great little thing. But that restaurant is insane, and I suppose I would go outside of Dublin. I was in the Cliff House. I actually didn't think it was going to be that nice. The Cliff House in Waterford, the best hotel I've ever stayed in. If you leave your room, there's a sensor on the door. As soon as they leave your room, these little fairies come in and make your bed and everything. So that's what they're. And it has a Michelin star restaurant on site as well. It's really, really good. It's worth travel now.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, the Cliff House is great, and they have one in town as well, don't they? Are they linked?
The sisters.
Yeah, the sister account. Yeah. So while the audience is thinking of another question, I've read that when you have time, you try to get out and do a little bit of running
Yeah, a
now
little bit.
and again. Have we many runners in the audience today? Yeah, got a few.
Well, probably put me all to
That's
shame.
great. What's your post-run treat?
So I don't know. Like I used to have bananas. I used to play football as a kid. Like I used to eat a banana, but I had 2 bananas before a football match years ago, and everything came up. So I don't like bananas anymore. I'd recommend a banana. You know,
Shame.
just one, not 2. But I don't
that
know
all?
what I normally do. Like I normally like get this idea in my head. I kind of a very fidgety person, and I kind of always wanting to move about and go on the go. So if I get it in my head that I'm going for a run, I'm literally in the run before, you know, I actually think of what I'm going to eat beforehand. I'm always just a big believer in eating your breakfast, lunch and dinner, eating your 3 meals, cooking them yourself and eating them nicely. That's
I run so that I can add in an extra meal, so that's...
I like that.
I know what I'm going to eat before I go for my run. Do you have another few questions over here?
Hello. So I actually wanted to ask a bit more about shopping, because you mentioned it's very important to buy good ingredients and things.
Yeah.
And I think it's often stopped us from cooking when you don't have at home some ingredients. So what is the best advice how to organize your shopping that, you know, you're not really like going with the book and choosing like 3 items, but more like holistically, so it kind of gives you inspiration for cooking. Thank you.
So I put a little section in the book there. It's what's to have in your cupboard. So there's like a selection of spices and oils and stuff. If you have, and you'll probably look in your cupboard already, and you look at that little list, and it'll say, you'll probably look in it, and you'll be like, oh, I actually have majority of that stuff already. The book is literally anything that is easy accessible, bought in all your shops in Ireland. For me, when I'm cooking, I probably do it the wrong way, which is a lot more expensive to do, is I buy my ingredients every day. So I go shopping every day. So like when I'm cooking my meals, the day before I'll do my shopping for just that day. I'd recommend maybe going on a Sunday and gathering together, so you know exactly what you're making all week, so that you kind of stick to like a plan nearly more than anything. Yeah, a little bit of discipline. But like I love it. My thing is that like if I'm too lazy this evening to go shopping, I'll have something in the cupboard there. I'll look at the ingredients and go, right, I can make, I don't know, I've got prawns there, I've got noodles, let's make like rice noodles, let's make pad thai, you know, it's kind of like, because you'll have little bits and bobs, you can always add in different types of ingredients and stuff. That's kind of the way I look at it. You can get creative with food, have some fun with it as well. Like if you're too lazy one of the evenings to actually do something, have a look at what you have, instead of picking up the phone and dialing just eat, whatever it is, I don't know. Like, have a look at what you have, and I can put money on it. You can put together something really fast, really easy, and a lot quicker than takeaway will come. You know?
Thank you so much for the talk. Before I worked here, I worked also in a 5-star hotel and had chefs every day, and I think you're the most humble chef I've ever met, which I think is really, really cool. And I have a light question. What is one thing that you really dislike, but sometimes you have to prepare it for someone else, but you really hate it?
I don't know, like, I don't mind. What? Oh yeah, sushi, yeah. I've made sushi so many times, I just can't eat it. Oh. No, it's not for me at all. Sorry. There's just some things that aren't for me, but yeah, I just think it's, I don't know what it is. I just can't get my head around it. What else do I not like? Banoffee pie, because bananas, you know? Anything to do with bananas. Oh, also, what gets on my nerves, right, is, do you know when you have a smoothie and it says mango smoothie, okay, but they put banana in it? It's a banana smoothie. Come on. Just tastes like banana. So, yeah, that's it.
Hi, Adrian.
Hi,
I was giving a look to your book, and there is different kind of food in it. Like there's a bit of Italian, there's a bit of Indian. So I have 2 questions. The first one is, where do you get inspiration when you thinking your new recipe? And the second question is, I have a dinner party coming next week. I swear to God. And I would like to have a suggestion from your book for a starter and a main.
Okay. I like that, actually. What was the first question? I've forgotten about.
Your inspiration. Where do you take inspiration
So
on the
the
recipe?
inspiration behind. So you see, it's all broken down into chapters. I've travelled to all these places to try all these different types of food. You see in Japan there. When I was in Japan, I got this lovely little scallop on the street. I was amazed by it. This guy was standing at this little stall. He had the shell of the scallop. He took the coral off, and he had a blowtorch, and he just sea salt, blowtorch the scallop there, and was in it like served. Give you a little fork, you eat your scallop on the go. Blowtorch scallop. I was obsessed with that. So kind of the inspiration behind. You'll see each recipe has a story. On top, each recipe has a little story there. There's a pancake in there called a sake pancake. So in Nice, there's Niçoise cuisine. They have their own type of cuisine that's completely different to France, and they have all their own different ethnic dishes. Le sake, I was obsessed with it, but because in the market square in Nice, when you walk into the market square, there's this massive line, and I was like, what's going on here? There's this big line lining up for this type of pancake. And I walked up anyway, so they make it there at the stall. There's this little, like, I suppose, bike and cart. And when they make it, they mix it up and roll it out. They place it onto this little bike and cart. It goes to a pizza oven and comes back 7 minutes. Next thing, this massive line forms. And it's this crispy chickpea pancake. But every recipe inside there has a story of where I've seen it before and I wanted to learn how to make it. And all I was saying is the wheel that squeaks the most gets the oil. When I was in Nice, I was like, show me how to make that. I'm not leaving until you show me how. You know, and that's kind of where I learned my recipes and stuff from traveling and all. For your dinner party,
Yes. Pick two, please.
Scallops and black pudding, very, very simple to put together. It literally takes you like 30 seconds to 2 minutes to like two minutes each side of your scallop. Will cook your scallops. Black pudding on the same pan. How many people are you cooking for? 6, is it?
4.
4. So it's literally 4 scallops each, 4 pieces of black pudding, a Granny Smith apple, which is just sliced up really, really thin, mixed through your lamb's lettuce, lemon juice, olive oil, sea salt. Put that in the middle of the plate. Arrange your scallops around. Make sure you get a lovely colour on your scallops.
I ask you
That's
for
your
an
starter.
easy recipe. Very easy one.
What else could you do? So that's your starter. Oh, a lovely starter, which is not in the book, but a lovely starter you could do. Because we've got nectarines that are in season at the moment. If you get yourself a little bit of ricotta cheese, you get yourself some, sriracha sauce. Drizzle in some sriracha sauce into your ricotta, lemon juice, pinch of salt, mix that together. Get yourself some toasted sourdough bread, spread on your sourdough bread, and get yourself a dry griddle pan and griddle like little segments of your nectarine or peach, and place those on top with some rocket. Lovely.
Now you're talking like a chef.
Yeah.
You know? And little, I don't know, dessert?
Dessert. There's after eight cheesecake there. So I had to feed the obsession for desserts in there. So it's after eight cheesecake, which is insane. And also your main course, if you're looking at the sides, have the little try of these. They're
It looks amazing.
Looks good, doesn't it? There's Hasselback potatoes. So if you have a little look at your side dishes, these Hasselback potatoes, they're literally like the most insanely crispy, fluffy potatoes you'll ever have in your life ever. They're really, really good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hiya. I'm just wondering, so when I was 15, 16, I had the urge to become a chef as well. However, my parents, especially my dad, was like, no, you need to go to uni and you've got your brains. And in the Netherlands, because I'm Dutch, you have to have a certain degree to go into cooking school. And I wasn't eligible to go in, but I'm still doubting until the day of today whether I should do a cooking school. However, my question to you is like, obviously you started when you were really young. Have you ever felt like you missed out on your youth whilst other friends were doing, like, I don't know, going out, meeting other girls or guys, going out for drinks? And I know you're really passionate, but I'm just wondering, have you ever felt like you missed out or that you wanted to change to something else? And what would be your advice to people that have had a dream similar to you as well, but couldn't because of, I don't know, college or whatever?
My thing was, I suppose I went through so many different phases inside when I was working there. You go through so many different emotions because you're seeing the same people every single day of the week, you're 80 hours a week. So your literally emotions change like that. And yeah, I've went through so many different kind of emotions. All my friends, I have 2 friends, we were not now because of it. 2 of my best friends have stuck with me from school, and literally have been the best guys to me, and understood that I had those long hours and stuff. But the amount of friends that just literally dropped and left because they were asking you, oh, we're going here, let's go here. You miss out on everything. You really do miss out on everything, but it was a sacrifice that I had to take. Looking back, probably my parents were the biggest help to me. They were always like, oh, just wait until you get to your future. You never know what you could do. You could be maybe working in a college as a college lecturer. You could be maybe, I don't know. My dad was always a believer that if you believe something, follow through in it, and it'll work out in the end. It was a lot of hard work, long hours. There's like even Bon Appetit. I'll give you an example. Oliver Dunn was a chef who trained under Gordon Ramsay for 6, I think it was 6, 7 months I was there, every day. So I stood here on pastry, Oliver stood here, who was owner of the restaurant, and shouted at me, and gave me abuse, and told me I'm a effing Egypt, you're effing, whatever, all day. And you listen to that all day from someone. Yeah, it's tough. It really is a tough career. There's getting a lot better. There's a lot more help out there for chefs. There's a massive shortage in them in Ireland. There's a shortage of about 5,000 chefs. And the reason for that, they blame the qualification schemes, but it's not. It's the treatment that chefs are receiving in the restaurants. It's not the way to treat people at all. There is a lot more rules and regulations coming in for it. Some of the places are disgraceful, let's be honest. Having pots and pans thrown at you is not very nice. But like, obviously those guys are being sought after, so they are. But I recommend, if you want to do something and you believe that like at the end goal is that you get an amazing job, an amazing life out of it, I think follow through with it. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Certainly sounds like there's room in the market for you. Do you feel like,
room.
yeah?
Loads of room. Loads of room.
We've one more question over on this side of the room.
Hi, when you were talking right now about what your experience remind me about a movie, and I wanted to ask you which are, like, for example, for me the cooking movie I love is Ratatouille, and like it's my cooking movie. Which are your favorites cooking related movies?
I suppose I love what have I watched recently? I'm obsessed with cooking shows. I watch so many of them. I love Ever seen Man vs. Food?
Adam Richman.
Huh?
Adam
Richman. Yeah, I actually met Adam recently. So he came to Guinness. Like, well, I was obsessed with that show. So when we met Adam, we were literally like, I was literally standing there. I was like, I can't speak to him. Sorry. But my friend thought it'd be funny that we were like messing. We were just like, oh, let's get him to do a challenge. But no, he wasn't up for it. I love so many different types of cooking shows. My all-time favorite cooking show ever is The F Word. The F Word by Gordon Ramsay. Probably the best put together cooking show ever. It's so good to watch. Gordon's such a fast-paced chef. He's fiery, obviously, but it's so interesting to see ordinary people come in and work inside his kitchen and serve food out to an amazing set of guests and stuff. It's a really, really good show. He's also set a new series out in the US at the moment. Again, the F Word again, yeah. It's really good.
Okay, great, thank you. So I'll just ask one last question before we close. So I love that you've created a book that's for the people on the other end of the spectrum, because, like you were saying, it's so easy to drop out of these habits and stop continuing them. Have you had any feedback from people on, or what kind of a feedback have you had on the book so far?
Well, like thousands of, pictures from actual students, which is, I didn't expect it to be students. I expected it to be like just mammies at the end of the day. But no, students have picked up on it, and yeah, it's been amazing. Like the pictures, I'm receiving pictures every single day of recipes being made from the book. Oh, it was really delicious, and that's that makes my day. Also, like, I was a nervous wreck when the book came out because it's your first book, so you're shaking and stuff. So when I walked in to see it on the shelf, like your heart's racing. But I remember walking in, actually, it's funny, into Easton, and there was a guy actually reading it, and I was like, woo! And I walked away. I should have stood beside him. I was like, so what do you think? But I was a nervous wreck about it. So I was like, it's either you make it or you break it with a book. It's a big risk to do. If your book doesn't do well, you can say goodbye to your career, really. You won't go as further on as you can. So it's such a massive risk thing to do. I'm just lucky that it's done so well. I've had massive feedback from everyone. And
that's brilliant, and congratulations. And I hope that you get a few photos from the various people in this room today from taking your recipes home with them. Thank you so much for coming in to speak to us today.
Thank you.